Okay, here we are live. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Leader Transition Institute's March 2025 Learn, Do, Grow, Repeat. My name is Annie Brock. I'm an Army veteran and Air Force spouse and a teacher and coach of all things mindset, communication, and leadership. And I'm LTI's president and CEO. Today, I have as my guest Laura Longmire. She is certified in personal wardrobe styling, custom color analysis, and bra fitting, and is dedicated to helping clients refine their style with confidence. With a Bachelor of Science in Education from Baylor University, Laura combines her teaching background with a passion for style to create an approachable and personalized experience. She's been a military spouse for over 20 years, so she understands the importance of adaptability and practical style for every stage of life. And with experience styling both men and women, Laura specializes in curated functional wardrobes that align with individual lifestyles and personal aesthetics. And I will tell you, I have worked with her personally, and she got me on the right path for so many years. I don't even want to, I'm embarrassed to say how many years, but for so many years, I didn't know what I was doing with my clothing. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I was so comfortable as a Mary Kay sales director, because they gave me a suit and told me to wear it. That was perfect after being in uniform. But Laura has changed my life, teaching me what works best for my body and for the kinds of things that I do, the position I hold, the people I interact with. So I am really excited about what she's going to share with you today. Welcome, Laura, to our Learn, Do, Grow, Repeat.
Oh, thank you, Annie. Thank you so much for having me on here and for allowing me to work with you personally. It was such a pleasure. And those words are just music to my ears. So thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it.
Okay, I'm going to throw your slides up, and when you're ready, you can just run with them.
Okay, perfect. So as Annie mentioned, I am a personal wardrobe stylist and a military spouse of over 20 years. So I have experience dressing myself and others for various climates and occasions. I understand the stress that's involved in just not being sure of what's appropriate to wear to different situations. So today I'm going to talk about dressing for professional life, specifically in the civilian world and why it matters. There's going to be a QR code up there on a few different slides. They will take you to a free downloadable guide that I've created, 5 pieces every professional needs in their civilian wardrobe. So you'll have multiple opportunities to scan that with your phone and download that guide.
That's awesome. I'm excited. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So today I'm going to talk about why does what you wear matter, defining your personal style, understanding dress codes, and then easy ways to elevate your look. So first of all, why does it even matter what you wear? I know that there's kind of a mindset, especially since 2020, that, a lot of work from home and athleisure wear, comfort is king, has been kind of the ruling mindset. But we are definitely moving out of that. Not only are people having to move back into working in person for a lot of jobs, but also the trends are moving towards a more elevated look. And while people still want to feel comfortable, looking professional is coming back in style. So there is a term called enclothed cognition. This came about when some researchers wanted to know, does it really matter what you wear? Does it affect how you perform and your mindset? And what they found was, yes, what you wear matters, because they did a study where they took people, first of all, they took people and put them in white lab coats and didn't really tell them anything about it. They just put them in white lab coats, had them do a test. And what they determined was the people who were wearing the lab coats performed higher, made 50% fewer mistakes on the test than people who were not wearing the lab coats. They tended to be more precise. And
Wow.
the conclusion they drew was that people assume that if you're wearing a lab coat, you're going to be somebody who's precise, like a pharmacist or a lab tech. Then they took participants and put them all in lab coats. Half of them, they told them they were doctor's coats. Half of them they told were painter's coats. And the people wearing the painter's coats actually didn't perform as well as the people who were wearing the quote doctor's coats. So the conclusion drawn was not only does wearing the thing matter, but your perception of what that thing, that article means matters. So there's an effect on our social, emotional, psychological health and our performance, how we show up when we wear certain things and have a certain idea about what that piece of clothing means to others.
That's really
So
interesting. Wow. I had no
it's,
idea a study like that had been done.
yeah, super fascinating. And what it tells us is obviously that if we have like a quote power suit, right? And we put that on, we're going to show up differently. Anecdotally, my 18-year-old son who wears jeans, boots, and t-shirts almost every day of his life, if you ask him his favorite thing to wear, he'll tell you it's a suit. And he says, I feel invincible in a suit. And there's just something about putting on a certain outfit or piece of clothing that makes us feel and show up differently.
That's interesting.
It really is fascinating. So then another study was done, public perception. We've all heard that you don't get a second chance to make a first impression, but then we also hear that you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. And they kind of are crosswise with each other. But the truth of the matter is, based on studies, we have as little as a split second to make an impression on others based on our appearance. And even when those people have more time, they don't tend to change their opinions. So you really do have only one chance to make a first good impression on people. So if you're walking into a job interview or that first day of work, meeting those potential new employers or coworkers, they're going to make a decision about how and whether they want to work with you just based on the way you look. So fair or not, doesn't matter. We all make these split-second decisions about others based on their appearance.
That's really interesting, Laura, because in when we had our Live to Lead, Malcolm Gladwell did a talk, and it was about perceptions and people's decisions. And they had given a bunch of psychiatrists information about a patient, but they didn't give them very much. And then they asked the psychiatrists to make a judgment about what was wrong with the patient. And they went back 3 different times and gave them more information every time. They didn't change their opinion about what was wrong with the patient. What they changed was how much they were convinced that their first decision was right. And so that goes along with exactly what you're saying about first opinions.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I mean, it just goes to show, right, that the moment you walk in the door, opinions are being formed about you, whether you
Yep.
like it or not.
Yep.
So, excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
So the next thing is personal branding. We all know that every company has logos and colors that are specific to them. We know that, excuse me, when we see brown and yellow, we tend to think UPS. When we see purple and orange, we think FedEx, right? So personal branding is your way of telling others who you are without having to say anything. That doesn't mean that you have to have a signature color that you wear all the time. There are some people who do that, and I'm going to talk about one of those people in a minute. But you don't have to have a signature color or a certain piece of clothing that you always wear or wear your hair a certain way. But it's just the overall appearance that we all know those people who are kind of known as the unkempt person. They just kind of always show up looking wrinkly and not put together. The hair is not combed or brushed. And then we know people who always show up looking polished and put together. And how you decide to brand yourself and set yourself apart is very important in that public perception arena. And your personal branding, part of that is establishing some credibility and trustworthiness, and it can actually determine whether people want to create a personal or professional relationship with you. So all of this results in confidence. So I talked about the enclothed cognition, and what you wear matters and how you feel. So my client, Ashlyn, told me, I feel super confident with my closet and how I step out of the house every day now. She said, excuse me, I'm at the tail end of a cold. She said that, I leave the house and I don't worry about what I'm wearing the rest of the day because I can focus on all the other things because I know I look good. That is enclothed cognition at work. And then the concept of personal branding. So this is my client, Julie. She is an IVF advocate. She's on Capitol Hill a lot. And she recently told me that her senator commented on her pink blazer and matching bag when she met him in January, and it made an impression. She always tries to wear that bright pink so that there's always that thread of recognition, bringing people, whenever they see that bright pink, it's bringing them back mentally to Julie and the advocacy work that she does.
That's great. And that's such a simple thing for people to do.
Absolutely. And again, it doesn't have to be you don't have to wear hot pink. I have a client who wears green every day but St. Patrick's Day, because then everybody else is doing it. But everybody knows who Dawn is because she's the lady in green. It can just always be, man, she always looks put together, or he's always got a suit that's just, spot on.
Love it.
Yeah. So now let's talk about defining your personal style. This can be super kind of intimidating. People think, oh, well, I wasn't born with that gene. I don't have personal style. Excuse me. There is that concept, that idea out there, and there are a lot of like well-known designers who say that, you're either born with it or you're not. But personal style is about what you like and finding a way to inject that into what you wear to tell people who you are. So first, you want to think about the message that you want to send. Do you want to walk into a room and have people think that you're like the fun-loving person? Do you want to be known as the competent, always on top of it person? What kind of impression do you want to create from the moment that you walk in and start working with somebody? This can lay the groundwork for, future promotions, for new job opportunities. I recently had somebody reach out to me on LinkedIn and said, I really could have used your help if I had known you existed before my recent job interview. He's a transitioning veteran going to a job interview at a corporation, and they contacted him, left him a message and said, it's been snowing. The CEO's wearing jeans, or the CEO's dressed casually today. Feel free to come in dressed casually for your interview. And he said, I was panicked. I didn't know what that meant, what would be appropriate. So I just decided to go with a suit. And he did get called back for a second interview. But he said, if I had known, I could have reached out to you and gotten some advice, because what does that mean? You don't have to, dress casually. Like that feels very vague. And so,
yeah, I agree. Does that mean you don't have to wear a tie?
Right,
you can
right.
wear a polo shirt with your jacket instead of a button-down shirt.
Right. So it can be really intimidating. And thankfully he went with the, erring on the side of going with the suit, and it paid off, obviously, because I think that he said they seemed to really appreciate that. Even when given the opportunity to dress down, I went ahead and went for the professional look. So let's talk about defining your style. Personal style is just that outward representation of who you are, who you want to be seen as. And so you just need to pick 3 or 4 words that define that. They become the pillar on which the foundation of your style rests. So when you're shopping, when you're putting together outfits, you want those pieces and those looks to be represented by those 3 to 4 words. Not all the words all the time, but for example, my words are polished, refined, elevated. So I always want to be hitting at least 2 of those concepts when I'm dressed. Even when I'm dressed casually, I want to look polished and elevated. I'm always the person that's a little step above maybe what other people are dressed as, because that's how I want to be seen, how I want the message that I want to send, because that's what's important to me. So having style words just gives you some focus and a place, a goal to work towards. And then these are some style words. There are hundreds of words that you could choose from, of course. The one word you don't ever want to use to describe your style is comfortable. Everybody wants to feel comfortable. Nobody really wants to look comfortable. If you look comfortable, if somebody says, "Oh, you look so comfortable," you're probably in PJs or sweats. And that's not how we want to be perceived. But we should always want to feel comfortable, of course. And whether I'm wearing a ball gown to, the Air Force ball, or whether I'm just wearing clothes around the house, I'm comfortable. I make sure that I'm comfortable in what I'm wearing, but I also make sure that I am refined, polished, and elevated. And then on the concept of personal style, these are all women that I have styled. These are outfits I've helped them put together. And we have everybody from stay-at-home moms to published authors to retirees, pharmacists, everybody in between, entrepreneurs. But they all have very different styles. They all have very different looks and style goals, but they all look fantastic in a way that expresses their different personality and their different style goals. So let's talk about dress codes. Dress codes can be very, very confusing, especially for people who've been spending their lives associated with the military. Because the military likes to make up their own dress codes, and sometimes they don't always translate very well into the civilian world. And there's a lot of nuances that can be very confusing. Just like the gentleman who ended up going to the job interview in a suit, when in doubt, overdress.
When you get to the end of this section, Laura, I want to go back to a comment that Matt Sivasek put in the chat that is too long for me to put up on the screen, but go, because I want to hear your comments about it.
Okay, sure. So the first dress code is one that is typically not appropriate for any workplace unless maybe you're a teenager, and that's casual. Casual clothes, that's what you're wearing to like maybe a work offsite, team building event or something. And that's when you can wear like sandals or sneakers. But this isn't going to be something that you wear to the job for the most part, unless, you're like in construction or something like that. This is when you can wear like shorts, casual jeans, t-shirts, that kind of thing. Make sure that you don't have a logo that could be offensive or promoting a company or a product that's, might be offensive to people. The one thing that no matter what the dress code is, but most especially probably for casual, remember that the people that you're socializing with on Friday night, if it's a work event, you're still going to be their coworkers on Monday morning. I think a lot of people tend to forget that, and they think that, oh, it's casual and I can just wear whatever I want. Sometimes there needs to be a little separation between our personal life and our work life, even when it's an out of office event. The next dress code is business casual. This is, I guess the equivalent would be like uniform of the day for military. And a lot of times it's called casual office or workwear, dressy casual, smart casual. Again, there's so many terms that kind of fall into these different categories. And a lot of times this is like, after work socializing or a casual dinner or something like that. For business casual, men can wear a jacket. Ties are typically optional, if even, worn at all. As far as a jacket, men, it never hurts to have a jacket, and women. You can always take the jacket off, but if you show up and everybody else is wearing a jacket, you're going to feel really awkward that you're the one person that's not wearing one. And if it's cold, women, it's always helpful to have a jacket on hand.
Years ago, I don't know if this still holds, but years ago, someone told me that as a woman, I should always have a jacket or at least a sweater because men were always wearing jackets. And that gave me something to be comparable to them.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And I talk about women on the next slide, but I totally agree. I think it's, especially like a blazer, it's a really easy way to elevate any look. It's really common now. People will wear like nice jeans and a t-shirt and some leather sneakers and then throw on a blazer, and it completely changes the way you look. So I think that's true. And I think a lot of women, you and I have had a lot of conversation about this, about women professionally dressing comparable to the men for the situation. And I think that's a really, I think people think that women tend to dress better than men, but in the workplace, men, they're wearing suits a lot of time. And I have heard from, people who organize TAPs at Pentagon, that women tend to be the one who really struggle with the appropriate level of dress. And so it doesn't hurt to throw on that blazer and maybe a nicer pair of shoes, a pair of flats or something.
Yeah, I told my husband and I had a conversation about that as I'm preparing to go to a gala in May. I said, you can wear the same tuxedo to every gala you go to. Last year, the next 5 years, you can wear the same one and no one will think twice. If I showed up in the same dress, they'd say, doesn't she have anything else to wear?
Absolutely. Yep. It doesn't feel fair. It just
Not at all.
it is. It just is what it is. But yeah, we definitely, men can have, one suit and a couple shirts and a couple ties and mix and match for the whole week. But it's much more challenging for women for sure. So one thing I want to mention with the business casual, it's become kind of like cool to wear, sneakers or tennis shoes with suits or dressier clothes. And that's fine as long as they are an elevated sneaker and it's appropriate for the scenario. Make sure that they're like canvas or leather sneakers. Don't wear your gym shoes, your running shoes, whatever it is. Don't wear your like Brooks or your New Balance. Wear a nice elevated shoe that's been well taken care of. And then for the women, as I mentioned, a jacket or a blazer is always a good option. Business casual, typically it's okay for women to wear sleeveless and tops and open toe shoes, but make sure that that that's appropriate for the place you're going to be in, especially if it's a workplace. Just those little things. If you are allowed to wear denim, don't wear denim with holes. Make sure that it's a darker wash is typically considered more dressy than a lighter wash. So just those little nuances are really important. And then there's business dress. Sometimes it's called business formal. This is if you work at like a firm or corporation, this is what's going to be appropriate. And this is what I always would recommend for any kind of job interview is business dress. Typically you want to stick to neutral colors rather than bright ones or loud patterns, because you just don't want to be, you don't want to be like stepping outside of what's accepted unless you really know the company that you're heading into. So men, wear a suit and a tie, nice shoes that are well cared for. Again, make sure, polish your shoes. Little tips like, your jacket, your suit jacket. When you're standing, always make sure that it's buttoned. And when you're sitting, make sure that it's unbuttoned, because you don't want the button to pop. You don't want it to look like it's not fitting properly when you're sitting down. And there's a rule that some men know, some men don't, but for a 3-button suit jacket, the top button is always buttoned when you're standing, the middle is sometimes, and the bottom is never. And if it's a 2-button jacket, it's always and never.
Okay, so Laura, I was trying to decide this last week, and I should have reached out to you. Is there a rule for women with jackets?
No. So women, you don't have to be able to button your blazer or your jacket unless it's something that you really want to be able to button, but it doesn't need to be able to button. Okay. For women. So when it comes to women in business wear, you're going to want to wear a nice nice suit, separates, a dress. Make sure that it's not too low cut, that it's not too short above the knee. And typically you want to avoid sleeveless tops and open toe shoes unless you absolutely know that it's acceptable in that place. You can always have like a nice sleeveless dress that you wear a blazer or a suit jacket over, but then you want to make sure that it stays on unless you're maybe alone in your office or something like that. Now, you said you had something that you wanted to.
Yes, I do. Thank you for remembering. So Matt Sivasek posted this comment. And he said that at Army Futures Command, they experimented with dress, and because they were trying to get people to work together better and not be intimidated or unintimidated by people's ranks. And so what they found was that the person with less power had greater influence when they changed their dress. For example, when they put a junior enlisted member in a suit and tie, people started listening to them. And when they put senior people into more casual clothing, then discussion improved. And so he said this is a key learning point. Dress for the environment you are in, considering the impact you need to have.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, Matt. I was just thinking as you were reading that, Annie, about my husband's done a lot of teaching in some of the command courses for the Air Force, and he and his partner that he taught with didn't wear a suit. They wore like a polo shirt and nice pants or whatever, because they're coming in and trying to be relational with those future commanders. So that's a really interesting point. And yeah, absolutely. A lot of this is about getting to know the culture that you're working in, and how you fit into it, and where you need and want to fit into it. It's a really great point. So I want to talk real quickly about some easy ways to elevate your look. So first of all, colors. Knowing your best colors, having a color analysis so that you shine instead of being overpowered by the colors that you're wearing can be really, really helpful. The human eye tends to see color before we see shape. And so if you're wearing really loud colors, that's going to draw the attention away from you. You don't want to be distracting. You don't want people to be staring at your obnoxious tie while you're trying to be interviewed and tell them how capable that you are. And of course, colors send different messages and evoke different feelings. Some people are of course, you don't have any concept of maybe how people feel about certain colors. I will say I've learned the color yellow tends to be a very high emotion. I mean, obviously it's kind of a bold color anyway, but people don't tend to be neutral about the color yellow, which is interesting. I love it.
Really?
I love it. I know some other people who hate it. 2 of my kids hate it. And every time I wear these yellow tennis shoes I have, they're like, "We hate your shoes." I'm like, I don't care, because I love them. But I know adults who really feel very strongly one way or the other about the color yellow. It's really interesting. Blue tends to be probably the safest color. Everybody can wear some form of blue. And of course, it evokes feelings of like calm. And so that's good. Red, we've all heard of like a red power tie. So if you are going in for maybe a leadership position, a red power tie is not a bad idea. If you are going in with somebody who you know is maybe like a client or somebody who feels like easily intimidated and has a little Napoleon complex, maybe you don't wear the red power tie. But you want to be thoughtful about the colors that you're wearing, that they're not drawing attention away from the matters at hand. Or if you're interviewing, say at FedEx, you don't want to go in maybe a brown suit and a yellow tie wearing UPS colors. So, be mindful of the company's branding. And then pay attention to the details. A lot of people like to pull something out of the back of the closet that is completely outdated, but because it's old, they think that it's classic. And old does not equal classic. Classic has more to do with the lines and the details and that kind of thing. It doesn't just mean that it's been, collecting dust in the back of your closet for 20 years. And then, of course, avoiding wrinkles, missing buttons, loose threads, gapping, the undershirt showing through, just little things like that. Your tie neatly tied. You want to pay attention to those details because that tells people that you can pay attention to the details in other areas as well. Knowing your best proportions not only helps you look taller, but it can just look really nice and polished. And then accessories like a pocket square or great shoes or some jewelry. Finishing off your outfit with those little details is the same thing. It completes and elevates the look, but it also tells people like you really put some time and attention into what you're doing when you're getting dressed. So you probably put time and attention into what the work that you do as well.
And it's a funny thing that you say that, because one of the things that I do is, even if I'm not wearing something particularly fancy to work in my office, I always put earrings on, because I feel like I'm not dressed for work unless I have earrings in.
Yeah, just those little finishing touches. And again, that goes back to that enclosed cognition, right? Like that's your mental cue that, okay, I'm ready to get to work because I have my earrings in.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing and paying attention to these details, this will help set you apart from others. If you go in for a job interview or you're up for a promotion against somebody else and they're always kind of unkempt, messy desk, always a little tie askew or running the pantyhose or whatever it is, and you're the person who always looks polished and put together and just kind of on top of things, that is going to make a huge difference when you're both equally qualified or, have the same work experience. So just paying attention to those little details is really important. And then I like to say, yeah.
Okay, go ahead and finish it. I have one question. Before you go on to this, let me say, you said you just used two words that, or maybe it's one word, I'm not sure, that some people would consider a 4-letter word, even though it's spelled without, with more than 4 letters, pantyhose. So should we be wearing hose as women, or can we stay? Because there was a gap when you looked like you were, you didn't know what was right if you wore pantyhose.
Yeah, so they're kind of on like trending back a little bit, especially in the winter, like tights, because people want to be able to wear dresses and skirts, but then it can be too cold. So tights in the winter for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I would say it's just like anything else. If it's really bold and it like takes away or draws attention away from the outfit or the person, obviously, then that would be a negative thing. Sheer pantyhose, I don't think, or nylons, whatever you want to call them, I don't think those can ever really necessarily be out of style. Be careful not to wear them with open toe shoes. I have seen that, and obviously that's
Right.
that's passe for sure. But I think it's one of those things that you can definitely look and kind of gauge based on what other people in your company or your arena are doing. And
So if you're a woman going for a job interview and you're going to wear a suit that is a skirt and jacket,
Mhm.
what should the rule be? Pantyhose or none?
I don't know that there's a rule. I'm probably the person I would err on what I'm comfortable with. I would be okay personally not wearing pantyhose. Um, but I don't think it's going to make such a difference one way or the other that like somebody's going to notice. And quite frankly, this day and age, if people are really noticing whether you're wearing like sheer pantyhose, there are bigger issues. You might not want to work for that company anyway.
That's what I was hoping you would say. And we have one question that I'm going to put up on the screen here. For an online interview, what is the best outfit?
Oh, good question, Mohammed. Excuse me. I would still go for a suit or whatever you would wear for an in-person interview. I have heard employers saying that people won't turn their cameras on for online interviews and that kind of thing. Turn your camera on, be ready, be prepared to speak to them as if this was an in-person interview. Don't even wear the sweatpants because again, it goes back to that mindset of I'm here, I'm ready, I'm going to show up as the best version of myself. If you're at home, you can change back into the sweatpants or whatever as soon as you finish with that interview, but you just want to be in that best mindset. So I would absolutely go ahead and wear a suit or at minimum a long sleeve button up shirt and a tie with the pants, with the slacks.
Awesome.
And,
Thank you.
and I would say for an interview, if you're not sure, I would contact, like if you have an interview with a company and you're not sure what the dress code is, then I would contact HR and just say, do you have a dress code policy? Would you mind sending that over to me so that I can look that over before my interview? Showing that initiative, I think, is a great thing and will help you feel confident that you're dressing appropriately.
That's a great idea.
So, and I just like to say that life is full of uncertainties and knowing what to wear shouldn't be one of them. We don't have to be flailing around unsure. If we just have these little pieces of information at our disposal, then it makes it so much easier for us to dress for any situation in life.
Well, thank you, Laura. I really appreciate this today. And I hope that a lot of you who are on, we had 14 people on at one time on LinkedIn. The numbers that we see
Awesome.
are kind of wonky sometimes, but I hope everybody who watches this video later, because it will stay up, takes advantage of the opportunity to schedule some time with you to learn more about how to dress properly and to get that PDF from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
I'm going to pull a slide down for right now. But what I want to do is to give people, if you have a question or two, I want to give you a time to put that into the chat, into the comments. It will show up on what we can see from LinkedIn if you're watching on LinkedIn. And so please just take advantage of this opportunity to get your question answered live.
Yes. Let's see. Somebody asked, where can we get a color analysis? I offer custom color analysis. I do it in person and virtually. So we're currently in Dover, Delaware. If you are in the Delmarva region, I can do it in person, but I also offer that service virtually.
Awesome.
Matt, dress up. Golden dress up to set the best example in the environment. Yeah, absolutely. Dress to set the best example until you know the environment, Matt. And then dress for the.
Oh, and Matt just asked about sitting in a suit. Can he unbutton the jacket?
Yes, always unbutton when you sit and then button it back when you stand up. I saw an interview recently. It was Marco Rubio. I have to say, I feel like he always dresses pretty well. He always has like great suits and ties and shirts that work really well together. But I saw him in an interview and he was sitting down with his jacket buttoned, and it just looked not great. And I just wanted to like tap him on the shoulder and say like, unbutton your jacket, because it was pulling so awkwardly. And probably he was thinking like, for the most part, he's just going to be shown from the shoulders up, doesn't matter. But they did pan out a few times and it just looked like it didn't fit very well.
And I saw an interview recently, and I can't remember who it was with, and the gentleman kept buttoning and unbuttoning his jacket like he didn't know what was the right thing to do. And I just felt sorry for him. I thought, just leave it alone and concentrate on the conversation.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. And then Matt said
and Matt has another question about tie length.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Let's see. Oh, what about tie length? So you want it to hit just right around like middle of your belt for men, maybe just above your waist, right? Kind of there's like a 1-inch span in there, that just anywhere right above your waist to like the middle of your belt. You don't want it too long where it's completely covering your belt. That's super awkward. And of course, you don't want it so short that you have a gap between the waistband of your pants and the bottom of your tie.
So men do have it complicated too. And Matt has another question. He says he can go on all day. When you remove your jacket, is it okay to roll up your sleeves?
I think that is kind of the military has a really good precedent that they set for this, which is when like the highest ranking person in the room removes their jacket, like on mess dress, then everybody else can do the same. I think that's probably really a good general rule to follow. So if you're, sitting in a conference room and everybody's working on something and the boss takes off his jacket and rolls up his sleeves, go for it. I wouldn't be the first person to jump in and do that. I think I would kind of leave that, like follow the boss's lead or whoever's, higher up than you.
Okay, that makes sense. That's a good way to judge. And then Jimmy Ortiz's question is, what's your opinion on bow ties?
I love bow ties. We just spent 6 years in the Deep South, and that's a very common look in the South. I love a bow tie. I think bow ties are a very, very personal preference. If you like a bow tie and that's your jam, I think you should go for it. But if it feels uncomfortable or awkward, stick with a regular tie.
And I have a question for men about vests. Sometimes I see men in vests and sometimes I don't. Is there a situation where, Laura, where you would recommend having that 3-piece suit as opposed to just the 2-piece?
Other than like a formal situation, I think that's really, again, that's a personal preference thing. It looks super, super sharp. It's kind of like a pocket square, right? Like a pocket square is that thing that not a lot of people go for, but it really sets you, people notice it because it's not super common. I think the biggest thing for men and women is fit. If it fits well, that's what people are going to notice. If it looks like you put on your mom or dad's clothes and it's just kind of hanging not right, that's going to be more noticeable than like, oh, he wore a vest or he didn't he wore a bow tie versus a regular tie or something like that. So I think fit is king.
Okay. And then Matt's come back with a question about dress shoes versus dress sneakers. And I wanted to tag on to that, is that I've seen a lot of men lately who are in business attire and they have on brown shoes. There's some kind of brand, I don't know, or style, whatever it is, brown shoes with a white sole. And that, to me, that just takes away from the business attire. Or am I just, 10 years ago?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. So The trend, so a lot of people are wearing the dress sneaker thing, like the Nike Dunks and that kind of thing. I would always, until you know who you're working with, who you're working for, what's the acceptable like dress code there. I would always err on the side of dress shoes. And then if you go and the boss or, and all the people that you're working with are wearing the like nice leather sneakers with their suits, okay. But yeah, the shoes, and my husband has some of these, are like Colhan, Antonio. Yeah, Colhan has a lot of these. My husband loves them, but I tell him he's got to stick to like the business casual and casual stuff with the white sole. It really does just kind of take away from that elevated look. I personally, that's, if you get into a situation where that's what other people are wearing and that's what you love, okay. And I will tack on, there are times when function has to rule over form. So there are times where like I have trouble feet, and so I'm going to have to wear shoes maybe that don't look as fantastic or as like stylish as I would want them to be, because otherwise I won't be able to walk the whole day. So sometimes you have to make a sacrifice, but just deciding what's worth it, Um,
So Jose Velasquez has a great comment, is that he was told to buy a suit for the body he had versus the body he wanted to have. And I think that is spot on. But he
yeah,
had another question.
yeah, I
I'm
was
going
just
to let
gonna,
you address that. And then I want, at the same time, he had another question about asking, where he asked about pocket squares for
Mhm.
business casual when wearing a sport coat. So would you tackle those two things?
Yeah, absolutely. So the guy at the Men's Warehouse is 100% correct. This is something that I would say 98% of the people that I encounter and work with struggle with, even myself sometimes. We want to dress um, a, a body that no longer exists for us or that we aspire to have. But we actually look so much better when we dress the body that we have, and knowing how to create balance and proportion on that body. And a lot of times the physical change actually happens, but really we have a mental shift, and we feel so much more confident when we start dressing the body that we have right now. And then pocket squares. Yeah, absolutely. Pocket squares with like a sport coat or a blazer for a business casual. That's a great look. One tip is, do not match your pocket square exactly to your tie. They do that a lot in the, like, when you buy the tie and the pocket square together, they're like the exact same pattern.
Mhm.
It's so much more elevated when they coordinate but don't match exactly. So like if you have like a striped tie and then maybe a solid or like a polka dot pocket square in the same colorway, but you don't want them the exact same like pattern, or like a dark blue tie, light blue pocket square, something like that, that just kind of where they coordinate and they work together, but they aren't matchy matchy.
And speaking of the pocket squares, Laura, I've seen them done different ways. I've seen them done in peaks, or a triangle. I've seen them done in square, like a rectangle or whatever. Is there something that's better than another, or do you just pick one that you like?
It's just personal preference and style. Yeah, it doesn't. There's just different ways, kind of like folding napkins. There's just different ways to do it.
Okay, and so we have one question more about accoutrements, such as tie tacks, lapel buttons, watches, chains, etc.
So I assume you're just asking if you should wear them, and I think that those are all, again, personal preference. This is where personal style comes in. Um, my husband has a collection of tie tacks that were his father's. His dad passed away, and whenever our boys have to wear a suit, we have 3 sons. They love to come pick a tie tack that was their grandfather's, and who they never got to meet. Come wear that, and it makes them feel really cool and special. Watches, that kind of thing. Yes, unbutton your suit when you're sitting. So honestly, these are all just personal style preferences. It's kind of like for women, like, do you like the earrings and the necklace, or do you also want to wear, rings and bracelets? Watches. I think one of the things that we can do that's really easy is, yeah, wear a nice watch. Like leather band watches are kind of coming back in, like really nice watches. We've been doing the Apple watches. People have been wearing the watch band that comes with like their Apple Watch for a long time. And it's so easy to find a nicer watch band, whether it's on Amazon or Quince or some other company, to put with your Apple Watch. So even if you're wearing, like a Fitbit or something like that, a digital, techie watch, go ahead and change out the band so that it matches the level of dressiness that your outfit is.
That's a great. I hadn't thought about that for men. I try and do that for myself with my Apple Watch, but I hadn't thought about that for men. It's appropriate for them too.
Yeah. Feel free to ask about the virtual interview and if the manager or recruiter will be on camera. Helps you to prepare yourself mentally. Yeah, that's a great point, Amy.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you everybody for your questions. I think there is a lot of information here. And I really appreciate, Laura, you coming on and sharing this with us. It's something that we all deal with, regardless of where we are in the world and what kind of a position we're going after. We need to know how to dress and how to feel comfortable in our own skin, meaning our clothes.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed this and I appreciate all the questions. And again, I offer free consultation calls. So if somebody wants to chat more about that, you can just go to my website. That's wherelifemeetsstyle.co, not .com. And I'd be happy to chat with you.
Well, thank you all for being on with us. I'm just going to close us out here and invite you all to join us again on April 22nd. Jennifer Ross will be my guest, and she's going to talk about the Veterans Upward Bound program. So thank you all for joining us for this session with Laura Longmire. Make sure you reach out to her and get information that is specific to you. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you, guys.